Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the big upsets which took place over the weekend. Liverpool going down 1-0 to Crystal Palace. And even a bigger upset took place on Sunday when Aston Villa killed off the Gunners 2-0 and possibly their title ambitions as well. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some EPL football, we have returning to the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back again, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christoph, a weekend of upset, a weekend when you could say the title turned towards Man City. But let's kick things off, Christoph. I mean, Anfield is the place where the first upset in the title race took place. Liverpool going down to a shock 1-0 defeat to Crystal Palace. Talk to us about that game, Christoph. What did you see from that one? And what's your reaction to such a defeat in such a manner by this Liverpool team?
I mean, this is what I had said before the game that Crystal Palace would probably score, maybe. Um, Crystal Palace would score. And you said, you expected Liverpool to go down first,
Definitely,
concede first.
definitely.
And
Again, been doing it all season.
yeah, I said I expected that Crystal Palace, if they got the goal and they defended well, they would win. But Liverpool would get chances. It's just a matter of how would Liverpool finish on the day. And we've seen here where, they got a number of chances, number of, you'd say gilt edge, clear
Yeah,
cut
Gilted,
chances,
more,
but
more than enough chances to win the
more
game.
more than enough chances to win the match and did not put away them. And as a result, Crystal Palace won. And it could have been 2-0 because we did see Mateta beat the defensive line, chipped Alisson Oliver Robertson to save it on the line. So
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it didn't surprise when Crystal Palace went one ahead. The surprise for me was the fact that, as you said, the creation of the chances, but the poor finishing, that is what let this Liverpool down. And of course, the goalkeeper, Henderson, made a number of spectacular saves as well. You could say some saves of the season, if you want to call it that. But I mean, the finishing was poor from Liverpool. And to me, it's a carryover from the game versus Manchester United, that game which ended in a draw, Christoph. I mean, it has been a characteristic trait of this Liverpool team. Especially, you could single out players like Nunes, for example, creating a number of scoring opportunities, but failing to put them away. And it was another case of that against Crystal Palace as well. Crystal Palace took a deserved lead, I thought. I mean, poor defending from Liverpool. And it's a situation which has plagued this team all season. And at some point, your luck is gonna run out. And so said, so done. Luck run out in this one and going down 1-0 to Crystal Palace. Pretty much, in my opinion, I had written off Liverpool from that draw versus Manchester United. And this is just another nail in their coffin in terms of harboring any sort of title hopes. And right now, that EPL title is squarely in the hands of Man City. It is currently now theirs to lose. All they have to do is to win the remainder of their matches, and they are good to go. And of course, the chasing pack, Liverpool, Arsenal, will have all the work to do. They cannot afford to drop any more points, and will be hoping that somehow there's a slip up from Man City. But another disappointing defeat for me, to be honest, Christoph. Very disappointing in terms of results and in terms of just the general gameplay from this Liverpool team as well. The first half was rather sloppy, and we saw Klopp making a number of halftime changes. What's your take on that sort of risk, Christoph? Was it the right call to make those subs at halftime?
I believe so. I think it was the right call to make those changes. Um, Even though we've seen where Liverpool's defense has looked poor and has conceded a goal, I feel Klopp was not expecting to go behind before halftime, which is why we saw him make those changes in an attempt to affect the game and utilizing those five substitutes. Um, Something I we don't see a lot of. I would have expected that a lot more managers would be using it to change games halfway through. instead of waiting till 65th, 78th minute to try and change a game. And it's something that we see probably beat Arsenal as well. Waiting too long to make changes to try and affect the game. But I think it's a case where Klopp was not expecting to be behind. I thought he was expecting his players to react after that Atalanta defeat and to be ahead at halftime. So it kind of forced him into making those changes.
Indeed. And I mean, the players that were substituted, Endo, he didn't want to be on the pitch. I mean, he was having a poor game, probably the poorest in a Liverpool jersey. But I mean, credit must be given to this Crystal Palace team, in all honesty. It was not all down to poor finishing from Liverpool. Crystal Palace came with a plan to Anfield, and I would say executed that plan to perfection. Taking that early lead through Eze, and the plan was working where they would sit back, soak up pressure, and then play on the counter. And on the counter, a number of opportunities were created, especially in that first half. And Liverpool could have been down even more goals at halftime, if not for some poor finishing on the part of Crystal Palace and some goal line clearances from the Liverpool defenders as well. So credit to Crystal Palace. They are fighting for their lives in the EPL, trying to escape that relegation zone. And they got one over on this Liverpool team. And it brings back memory of past years when Liverpool were in the title hunt, but again, fell to Crystal Palace. And it was all over in terms of that title chase. So Crystal Palace seemed to have been a bogey team for Liverpool. And that sort of history continues. At this point, I mean, all you can do is to pick up the pieces and hope that, the results will improve going forward. But, so in terms of your take though, Christoph, do you think Liverpool team is officially out of the runnings, or do you still give them some sort of chance in this title race?
I think it doesn't matter if Liverpool go on to win all remaining games. Same thing for Arsenal, even if they go on and win all remaining games. Man City is not going to drop any points. Man City has the luxury of rotating their squad without any drop in quality. So I think the title race is over.
Indeed, it's gonna be a tough one. I mean, they say the ball is round, but we know the sort of quality team that Man City is. They have been there, they have done that, and with 6 games to go and a 2-point lead at the top of the table, it's gonna be hard for Arsenal, who is closest, and Liverpool, who sits in third. No, I mean, started the weekend in first and now sitting in third. It's a big turnaround in fortunes, and it just goes to show how tight this title race is. I cannot recall in my history a title race which involved 3 teams so closely packed together. I mean, mathematically, any of these 3 teams can still win. And that is what Arsenal and Liverpool will be banking on. But historically, we know one City take the lead so late in the season. You could say it should be lights out. But as I said, the maths is still there. A draw for City and possibly an Arsenal win. Arsenal could potentially take the title, Christoph, on goal difference. It is that close.
Not happening. Not anymore.
Well, I
Poor,
mean that.
to me, it's a matter of poor planning on the part of both Arteta and Klopp. The last couple of years, maybe the last 3, 4 years, the title race to me, and no disrespect to City or to anybody or to Pep, the title race to me has been down to when it comes into the closing stages, attrition. And it's a case where because City can afford to rotate, they are fresh and players are rearing to go still at the end of the season. Right now, to me, it kind of looks like Liverpool has run out at the moment, which is why we've seen such poor finishing of late. Um, Not to say
A possibility as well.
the defending has been poor this season, and we know
Yeah,
that
definitely,
because of
definitely.
but they have been scoring and they've been outscoring
Yeah, they
opposition.
have been scoring, but you would also say they should have scored more based on the chances and the quality of the chances which they
Right.
have been creating throughout the season, not even just this game. I mean, even this game, if you take this game as as an instant by itself. I mean, Liverpool created a number of goal scoring opportunities. Curtis Jones missed a one-on-one. Darwin Núñez inside the 6 yard, hitting the ball straight at the keeper. Diaz was true on goal in the first half, hitting the post. Endo, a scuffle inside the 6 yard box against the upright. That Núñez, which the keeper knew absolutely nothing about, but still came up with a save. So, it's a number of goal scoring opportunities which are gilt edge at this level of competition with the stakes so high. You have to finish off these chances. And as they say, goals change matches. And that was the case. You go down 1-0, the pressure all of a sudden starts to build. And then you find yourself really chasing the game, and all sort of errors and mistakes creep into the fore because of that pressure and the level of expectation which is there. And I thought that is what got the better of this Liverpool team. But I have been seeing that, Christoph, as I mentioned, from the Manchester United game. It was very panicky in terms of getting back into that game, having gone 1-0 ahead and then having been trailing only to come back and draw 2-2. Panic setting. You could see the players tightening up. They weren't as relaxed as they were before, and they managed to get a draw in that one. But this one was to no avail, going down 1-0 to Crystal Palace, and possibly the end of their title dreams in terms of sending Klopp off on a high. I mean, earlier in the season, talks of you could say a quadruple of titles. It is now down to one is in the bag. I mean, you're up against it versus an Atalanta team, 3-0 down and playing the second leg away from home. That game is as good as done. And personally, I would not even field a first 11 in that game. I would try to put my eggs in the EPL basket. And even that competition is now out of your hands. You'll be hoping for a Man City slip and an Arsenal slip as well. So two teams will have to slip up for Liverpool to even have a sniff of a chance. But stranger things have happened. Who would have thought that Liverpool would have lost in the same weekend as Arsenal? But let's segue then, Christoph. I mean, another massive shock over there at the Emirates on Sunday. Aston Villa, Christoph, getting the better of Arsenal, 2-0. And it was the Jamaican Leon Bailey who got the scoring off and really set the cat amongst the pigeon. Pretty much that was the killer goal. Give us your take on that game, Christoph.
So that was a case of, I would say, Mikel Arteta doing what Pep used to do and overthinking the game. I think it's a case where Arteta knew what Aston Villa was going to do. Aston Villa was going to sit, soak up the pressure, and then hit on the counter attack, which is what we saw. And they had a number of chances on goal, hitting the woodwork multiple times. Um, on a different day, it could have easily been 5 or 6 from Aston Villa scoring, but saved by the woodwork, saved. They again, I said it before the game. This is what Aston Villa would do. They would sit and sit back, allow Arsenal the ball, wait on mistakes, and then hit on the counter attack. That's what they did. I think it's a case where Arteta tried, because they were expecting them to sit, Arteta tried to get as many bodies as possible in the attacking third. So as such, we saw him drop Kai Havertz into midfield. We saw him put Trossard out wide, and we saw him play Zinchenko instead of Kivior and Jorginho, because he wanted to try and overload the low block that Aston Villa was going to play. But it backfired greatly, because we saw where, again, I've said it, I don't think Zinchenko is a starter. I don't even think Zinchenko should be anywhere near defense anymore. Where Aston Villa targeted that left-hand side with Zinchenko out of position, and that's where we saw Leon Bailey free and scoring that goal in the second half?
That's right.
I mean, we saw Arsenal, the first half, I saw Arsenal get a number of chances that really should have been buried. Trossard, guilty. Kai Havertz, very guilty. And this is what I'm saying. While you don't need, a absolutely brilliant striker, having a good striker who can finish those chances would have made the difference for them. had those chances been presented to say maybe a Erling Haaland, we know he would have probably taken them.
You're
All right,
talking about the one of the if the best, if not the best striker in the EPL. I mean, right now Cole Palmer is rivaling him in terms of the Golden Boot, getting four
Ollie
past
Watkins.
Everton this evening. And of course, Ollie Watkins is another top
I'm
man,
pretty sure
top
Ollie Watkins
marksman
is
as
at the
well.
top of the table at the moment.
No,
Pop,
it's Haaland and Palmer tied on 20 goals. Palmer got four in the bag versus Everton today. So he's definitely rivaling Haaland. I mean, Ole Watkins is right there on 19 goals, but those are the top three strikers in terms of that race for the golden boots. But I can definitely appreciate what you're saying in terms of the poor finishing. I mean, it was a similar case at Anfield with Liverpool where chances were created, but again, poor finishing let the team down. And, you know, I believe Emery made some shrewd tactical changes at halftime, especially on that left-hand side where Kanza was being pulled out of position and Kai Havertz were making those runs in behind the Aston Villa defense. Some really shrewd tactical changes were made in terms of the role that McGinn was playing. He was the catalyst for that stalwart defending in the second half by this Aston Villa team. And the longer Aston Villa remain in the game, the more dangerous they look on the counter. And as you mentioned, Ole Watkins hit the upright and it could have been 1-0 there on a breakaway chance. And of course, pretty much the Arsenal defense fell asleep on the left-hand side and Bailey was there late in the second half to tuck it away. And then, of course, Ole Watkins put the icing on the cake in that extra time period. And it was lights out for this Arsenal team. You could see them creaking under the pressure of trying to maintain their status at the top of the EPL, but it was not to be. It's Aston Villa that came away the winners. Again, the wily old Emery, the former Arsenal manager, Christoph, getting the better of Arteta again, doing the double. Christoph, talk to us from a tactical point of view. How is Emery getting the better of Arteta, having now faced him on two occasions in the EPL now? One at home where they run away 1-0 winners, and now at the Emirates where they even bettered that performance by running away 2-0 winners. I mean, Arsenal have even failed to score in those two games as well.
um, I mean, to me, from what I saw, the first game at Villa Park, this game at the Emirates, Emery employed the same tactic. It wasn't anything hard to call. I think, like I said, I think Arteta tried to counter it by having so many bodies who would have been arriving in the box, but it failed because these players didn't finish the chances presented to them. Poor quality, similar situation in Liverpool. Had you a quality striker up front, might have been different. But also, it's a case where I think even though the players, they made a mistake that led to the Leon Bailey goal, I think Arteta must take 100% of the blame for this loss. You have a system that you've been playing all of 2024. You've been winning with this system. What
Why change it? Why
why
change
did
a
you
winning
change it?
formula? That is the
If it
question.
was if you saw at halftime it was not working, that's when you make your change. You have
Right.
five
So, but go in
substitutes,
the game with the system which have been tried, tested, proven, and have been giving you the results all season.
and I believe that is what was the true cause of the loss today.
Definitely,
The tactical tweak.
I can appreciate that for sure. I mean, it was almost a case of round pegs in square holes. I mean, where players were not sure of their role in this sort of new system. And the dropping of Jorginho, to be honest, shocked me because he has been purring, he has been playing well, and him, Rice, and Odegaard had formed a very good partnership and understanding in the heart of that Arsenal midfield. So it was quite a shock for me to see him not being in that starting 11. And, the faith in Kai Havertz is probably the downfall of Arteta in employing this sort of tactical approach to the game. So after the changes, you could definitely see that those changes were almost out of desperation, where he was searching for some sort of solution. But by then, Aston Villa had gotten comfortable in terms of their defensive shape and had pretty much worked this Arsenal team out. And I must say the tactical adjustment at halftime by Henry was very telling, and I thought that was the difference in the game in terms of the managerial matchup. Emery tactics far superior or pretty much matched up with that of Arteta. And as you know, goals win matches, and it was that Bailey strike which came from a corner on the second phase of play, the ball going all the way across the Arsenal 18-yard box for a unmarked Bailey on the right-hand side of the forward line there to pretty much almost tuck it into an empty net. And by then, Arsenal had to press forward for an equalizer or even a winner. And then again, getting caught out on the counter by a sublime finish by Ollie Watkins, Christoph. That goal could possibly go down for goal of the season. It was a quality strike from a striker in form, red hot at this moment. I mean, Christoph, talk to us about Ollie Watkins. What can we say? Player of
It's
the
been a
season?
it's been a brilliant season for him. He's been very good, but he won't win player of the season. Not
And
because
for
I
a
don't
man who doesn't take penalties either, Christoph, he is now on what, 19 goals, and
19 goals.
he doesn't take penalties. All the other strikers, Haaland, Palmer, Salah, they are all their team's penalty taker. Watkins have gone 19 goals and no PK in and among that lot. I mean, definitely a sublime player. There might be a number of offers for him in the summer window. I mean, he could be a good fit at Arsenal. What says you?
I don't think so. Not again. Not that he's a bad player. Nothing like that. He's a
I
quality
mean, he's a
striker. He's
player to me
proven that.
which could fit into just about any system, and Arsenal could do with a player who gets in behind and can also hold up the ball to add something different, and then bring other players like Saka, Martinelli, Trossard in and around him into the game. I think he would be a quality fit, but of course,
Uh,
Arsenal is not one team to splash the cash. And with players going for in excess of £100 million, then I mean, with the sort of form, the sort of goal output of this season from Ollie Watkins, I mean, a team like Arsenal may very well be priced out. And I'm not sure if Aston Villa will be willing to sell as well, because it is looking as if they may end up pipping that fourth spot from Spurs, who lost again. And this was one of those games that Spurs were banking on for Arsenal to get all 3 points from Aston Villa. But surprise, surprise, it is Aston Villa that is walking away with the 3 points. But Christoph, what's your take on that top four race? I mean, Aston Villa is in the thick of it. Are we seeing a resurgence from this team, or this is just one of those one-off performances, and it may be back to that sort of indifference form from this Aston Villa team come their next game?
Hard to say right now. I mean, it is possible that they will take some encouragement from this game and kind of press on for the remainder of the season. But even if they are, let's say, a bit spotty for the remainder of the season, I still think they'll probably pip Tottenham to that fourth spot because it looks to me like Tottenham has, truly run out of steam at the moment. And
Yes, indeed. Spurs definitely looking the worst of wear, in all honesty, and going down to a rampant Newcastle team. It was almost like, a quick kill, a masterclass in counter-attacking football from that Newcastle team. I believe
quite
in
shocking.
their
Shocking.
game versus Spurs. Spurs dominated the ball, having what, about 72% possession, while Newcastle only mustered 28 possession. But as have often been the case, it's not the possession stats that count, it's really the goal stats. And it was pretty much the Newcastle team which were almost scoring for fun versus what could say is a very shaky and leaky Spurs defense. Van der Veen was made to look like I'm not sure, a schoolboy in terms of his defending. Garden and Isaac had a field day with him in the heart of that Spurs defense, and it was just scoring for fun, and Newcastle seemed to be on a good run of form. And they maybe possibly drop into one of those minor European position, having started the season very poorly and a big decline from their output of last season. But any final thoughts, Christoph? What's your take on this week football action? I mean, Man City getting another win under their belt. They're just turning things over. Arsenal, Liverpool losing. Man City taking the lead at the top of the table. I mean, give us a summary of what you saw in the league this weekend.
Saw some very shocking results, and we saw the end of the title race as is. Um, I, I, I'll be honest. I don't see either Liverpool or Arsenal, regardless of them winning the remainder of their fixtures. Like I said, Man City has a very easy fixture list to the final day. The only tough opposition being Tottenham, who we have seen is out of steam.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't count on Tottenham to really take any point. I would rather bet money on one of the lesser considered teams to take some points off Man City, for example. Bournemouth earlier in the season did manage to get one over on them. So I would bank on one of those upsets. I would not put any hope on the Spurs team, even though Spurs has a good record against Man City, especially at home in recent times. But it's hard to see this Spurs team really
Uh,
bouncing back and
We're
offering
we're
any
we're
sort
we're
of.
not going to see the Spurs team bounce back against Man City. We will probably see them play well against Arsenal. We'll probably see them play well against Liverpool, but they're not going to play well against City. Can guarantee
Mm.
that.
Indeed, indeed. At the end of the day, Arsenal and Liverpool find themselves in the same boat where you could say they have to join forces in rooting for other teams that play against Man City in the hope that some sort of slip up will occur. But as I said, I wrote this Liverpool team off several weeks ago, and so said, so done. The string of results is just proving that my prediction it was spot on, and I really don't see that changing much. So, Klopp should maintain a top four position, should take home one trophy, the Carling Cup, but to me, that is as good as it gets. It would be an emotional send off without adding to that trophy cabinet outside of that, you could say, that Carling Cup. But it is what it is. The ball is round and stranger things have happened. Oftentimes it is said there is, you know, a big gap between the cup and the lip. So you can never tell what might happen. At the end of the day, you have to go out there and play the game and hope for the best or put your best foot forward. But definitely a weekend where the title race turned, Christoph. That is my takeaway from this week of football action. Uh, just one of those days, one of those days. But we move, and lots of football is still coming up, and the relegation battle is also heating up. Everton going down 6-0 to Chelsea today. Chelsea making a slight push, possibly trying to get into one of those minor European position, possibly the European Conference League is a possibility if they can maintain a decent run going into these last 6 games. But lots is happening. Every team has their own narrative, whether it's avoiding relegation, whether it's pushing for Europe. But there is some sort of storyline when you look at each team in the league, and it will be interesting to see how the remainder of the fixtures play out. It's this time of year, in my opinion, where you have the most upsets taking place because every team, as I said, is fighting for something different. Some teams, the shackles may be off where they are no longer considering whether they're being relegated. At this point, there's no mathematical possibility for any relegation. So players are more inclined to play a bit more freely. Managers are more inclined to give those players the leeway to go out there and express themselves. So possibly that is why we're seeing such high scoring games as well. Chelsea today 6-0. Man City on the weekend shared what, 5 or 6 goals. So a number of teams are really putting in the performances and really getting some results at this point in the season. But such are these things. But any final word for our viewers and subscribers, Christoph, as we look towards the final 6 fixture in this year's edition of the English Premier League?
Well, congratulations to Man City for winning a fourth Premier League title and on
Well,
course, on
well,
course
they
to win a second treble in a row.
indeed, indeed, and it's something I spoke of earlier, where no one was talking about Man City and the triple, but they have their hands in all three of those baskets. They're, in the fight with Real Madrid for that semi-final berth in the Champions League. They are now top of the English Premier League, and of course, they're in the semi-finals of the FA Cup, where I believe they will take on Manchester United. Is it
No,
Manchester United
no. They'll probably play United in the final, just like
in the
last year,
final?
and
Oh, okay, got
United
you.
will get beaten again. They
Well,
can't they can't beat City. They don't even put up a fight.
some bold predictions there coming from Christoph, but that's all the time we have, viewers and subscribers. Just like to reach out and thank you again for continuing to support the channel. Of course, leave your comments in the comment section, and if you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscription bell. We're looking to push the subscriptions up, and as we look to grow and progress the channel. Thanks again to Christoph for coming on board and really sharing with us some profound thoughts, and of course sharing with us his opinions as well. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.